Great. So, Shattered Together, A Mother's Journey from Grief to Belief is the book that I wrote in 2020. And it's actually one of three books that I wrote in 2020. And the story itself is a little inspiration. It's a little memoir and a self-help book. And the book was started from my son's suicide in 2010. He took his life when he was angry at me, and he actually wrote a note asking for me to not attend his service. And so I was completely shattered. My professional life was fairly successful. However, my home life felt like it was completely rocked. And I found myself lying on his grave. And the chapter that I'll be reading from the book is talks a little bit more about that. But the book was inspired early on because I knew that if this happened in my life, I wanted to help other people to not have to either experience it or assist them in through their experience. At the end of each chapter, there is a practice, a daily practice that I include. So as you read the chapter, it's more of a conversational book to let you know that losing someone is challenging. It could be stressful, and it can also be, there can be a light within that, and that we don't need to get stuck in the suffering of the loss or the trauma that we've experienced, but we can find ways to heal through that and live through the challenges of whatever we're experiencing. While the book is about my story and my son's story about suicide, it is also a book that can be useful when you're experiencing a divorce, a job loss. With COVID, our life changed drastically and suddenly, and there was a lot of trauma that happened during COVID. So anything that happens that causes stress, this book could be helpful for you. When I was writing the book, I had a co-author. Hi, Melissa. I'm so glad that you're here as well. I had not a co-author, I had a ghostwriter that assisted me through this. And the process was a very cathartic process. So anybody that's experienced some kind of loss, I would encourage you to journal, for sure, journal, because even though I journaled through all the years of my healing journey, writing the book, I found was even more cathartic. And we started with a third of the book was completely written and read, and we ended up setting that aside and starting all over again because it wasn't the direction that I ultimately ended up going with the book. And I'm so grateful that we set that third aside because I needed to go through that in order to release some of the pain that I was still carrying, because I wanted this book to be inspiring and a book of hope, not a book of the pain that we all experience with the trauma that we've lost, that we're going through. So yeah, that was my process. And I started by writing a chapter in a book called Women Who Rise. So the actual incident of my son's life gone, or his transition, his suicide, the actual story is in that book. And then Shattered Together came second. And then the third book, called Women Who Empower, there's a story in there about what you can do with the amazing tools and the skills that I developed, and what's occurred when you actually do move through your healing journey, and you can find love and joy and peace and connection. And even though it feels like you can't survive after a trauma, there's something good that can come from it. And I know today, there's a little bit about this in the book, but I know today that my son is with me at all times. And he actually, this is a little interesting tidbit. He actually helped me develop the book cover. So he was part of me writing this. So he was with me at all times. And so I was having a difficult time coming up with a book cover. I knew in my mind what we wanted. but it wasn't coming out. The designer, no matter how I was expressing it, it wasn't coming out. And about 10 days before the book was actually published, we still didn't have a book cover. And so I went to bed one night and just said, Logan, if you want this book cover the way you want it, I need you to share it with me. I need to know it. And I woke up with this exact book cover in my vision. And what's so important about this, it looks like there's a bolt, lightning bolt down the center of this heart. That's actually the side profile of my son's face. And so I don't know if you can see that or not, but, and then there's angels, and there's many iterations of the cover, and you can see that the divine light is coming down through the center of the heart, and there's an angel on the side, and there's like the hands of the divine underneath there. So when you get the book, whatever you're meant to see within the book cover, you'll see, which is what other people have told me, that they've seen different things in the book create. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm just going to read a chapter out of the book. It's chapter 5. It's called Finding Meaning Again, or Find Meaning Again. And if you have questions now or later, please feel free to ask, but I'm just going to go ahead and start reading the chapter now, unless you have something that you want to ask right now. Okay, great. So Find Meaning Again. It was late July, near my birthday, and just months after Logan transitioned. I had been at my office, but I was too upset to concentrate, so I told my staff I was leaving and drove to Logan's grave. It was more than a 2-hour drive, but I went there often, especially in the early years. It was where I often felt the closest to him. At his grave, I could scream and cry and write in my journal. I'd bring his favorite snacks, and I'd spend hours sitting and talking to him. Sometimes I'd just lay on the ground and cry, begging him to hear me, begging him to know how much I loved and missed him. That day I laid on his grave, weeping and asking, why? I'm so sorry. I love you, Logan. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry, I cried out. What had I done in my life that was so bad that I was being punished? Why am I being made to go through this? I asked the divine. I had overcome so many challenges in my life, including early childhood sexual and physical abuse. As an adult, when my children were 5 and 6, their father and I divorced. A few years later, he relocated from Vermont to South Carolina, so I effectively became a single mother. I never went to college, only earning my degree when I was in my 40s by taking night classes at a local college. Yet, despite the challenges I had faced, I had succeeded. There I was, and life felt so unfair, and the pain was so immense that I didn't think that I could handle it any longer. After Logan's death, it was my daughter, Ashley, who gave me the will to survive and keep living. I didn't want to go on, but the thought of leaving her alone, when she was already in tremendous agony, terrified me. I couldn't bear to think about taking my life and leaving her to suffer more pain. Still, as I laid on Logan's grave, I didn't see how I could live with the torment. My actions had killed my son. I was to blame. Why me? I cried out, sobbing. I was shattered, and I had no idea how to put myself back together. And so, at my lowest point, I begged to the divine to just take me too. Please, I cried. I can't live like this anymore. Take me too. I don't want to live like this. How am I supposed to go on? I have no idea how long I laid like this, how long I pleaded and begged the divine to strike me down. I hurt so much. It was like a car had fallen on my chest, and then a giant boulder on top of that. The guilt and shame suffocated me, and I didn't see a path forward. To me, I was trapped in a long, dark hallway without any light, without any end. Then I felt this peace come over me. Even today, I can't explain what happened or what it was, but suddenly I'd stopped crying. My body stilled. Then inspiration came. I received a message from the divine. I heard it echoing in my mind and felt it in my gut. If this happened in your life, then you're meant to do something with it. Now do something with it. My eyes popped open. I heard that voice, and I knew it was a sign from Logan and the divine. Suddenly, my mind started working again. For months, I had lived in a daze, incapable of thinking or focusing for more than a couple minutes. I had zero memory. I could barely think clearly beyond the next breath, and thinking strategically about anything was off the table. But my mind instantly cleared. I just knew I was meant to bring more awareness about suicide to the public. I knew in my soul I had to help people, especially parents, recognize the signs of suicide, signs that I had missed. I needed to help him to learn the language to talk about suicide if they suspected their loved one was at risk. After Logan had transitioned, I had spent hours scouring the internet, learning about the signs of suicide. I had to know what I did wrong, what I hadn't seen. We don't know what we don't know, I thought. Maybe if I'd known the signs of potential suicide, I could have saved Logan. But since I couldn't change the past, maybe I could change someone else's future. I had political, governmental, lobbying, and business contacts throughout the Vermont who could have helped me, excuse me. I had political, governmental, lobbying, and business contacts throughout Vermont who could help me make a real difference. I had media connections to journalists, reporters, anchors, and radio hosts. As a former state representative, I was a public enough person I knew the outlets would pick up my story if I was willing to share it. I had the voice and the platform to do this work, and I was being called. For the first time since Logan's death, I could breathe. I began downloading to-do lists and tasks. I could see who I needed to email and call, and I knew the very first outreach needed to be the director of the Vermont chapter of the suicide prevention. I got in my vehicle feeling renewed and this shot of energy coursing through me. As soon as I got home, I called to set up a meeting with her. I had a purpose. I was going to save lives. Learning how to live again. For the next 6 months, I threw myself into the world of suicide prevention. It gave me a purpose to get out of bed each morning. Most of all, it moved me, or rather, it moved my energy. When your loved one transitions, it can feel like losing, it can feel like life loses all meaning. Color has turned to black and white, and all you feel is pain. You can feel slow, your body heavy and stuck. In the beginning, this is common. It's grief and pain, and it's grief and pain in a way, it's stuck in you. At some point, it's healthy to shift that energy and start to move it through our bodies, finding a purpose and meaning again. As we do this, we start remembering what light and goodness in the world feels like. We also find a reason to keep going because we are still here. There is a reason why you're here. You have a purpose. You just need to discover it. For me, Ashley gave me a reason to go on living, but I also needed a higher purpose. I needed to find meaning and a purpose from this tragedy. That purpose became being of service in this world. I vowed to educate people about mental illness and suicide prevention because I desperately wanted to prevent other people from feeling the pain I felt. If I could educate them about the signs of suicide, maybe I could stop people from losing their loved ones. You need to find a reason to live and a path back to life too, if you don't have one already. Living with the constant pain and numbness isn't really living. That's being trapped in the agony in a terrible hellscape. I know that you have a purpose for being here. You in your life have meaning. You matter. Your loved one's transition hurts, I know, and it can feel dark and desolate out there, like you're wandering through a night that will never end. I promise you, there is light in the dark, and there is light in every experience we encounter. Even when we're in pain, we can find something good to create from it. Good for us, good for our loved ones, and good for the world. Finding meaning and purpose again is your way back to life. Everyone I have ever met who has lost a loved one who had suddenly and unexpectedly answered asked similar questions. Why? Why did this terrible thing happen? What am I supposed to do with this? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? Finding a purpose and meaning in life can help you to answer these questions. At the very least, you will begin to find some comfort and hope. Many roads for you to choose. Your meaning and purpose won't look exactly like mine. Being of service has always inspired and driven me. I saw suicide prevention work as a natural extension to my time as a legislator. I loved those years as a public servant. So working on a cause and being of service felt right to me. But following my path by speaking publicly or giving interviews on radio and television may not be yours, and that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. Finding meaning for you will be unique to you. If your brother or sister died by suicide and your parents are still alive, maybe you go and you have to endure the pain of losing another child who needs you to get up and take care of them every day. It could be writing a book about your experience or getting involved with a cause or organization that holds special meaning to you and your loved one. It could also be finding something that you once loved to do but had let it go, like playing the piano, drawing, cooking, gardening, bird watching, and reintroducing it into your life. I drew from my background, so draw from yours. Discover your purpose and what's meaningful for you. Ask yourself, what can I create from this moment, no matter how big or small, that will make a positive difference in this world and in the lives of everyone around me? Then be open to whatever comes up, even if it's an idea or a response you would never have imagined, like starting a nonprofit or becoming a mentor to an at-risk teen. Finding a purpose out of the tragedy and beginning to bring it into your life isn't a miracle drug. The pain you feel doesn't magically go away. The pain may still continue, but you can start to feel it lessen, or you may be reminded of what light and goodness in the world can feel like. Daily exercise. Rediscover what you used to love. Now is the time to remember what you'd love to do. This is your pathway back to finding a purpose and meaning in life once more. If you want to get involved with a cause, that's great too. Go for it. Whatever gets you feeling a little energized and gets you moving again in life is what you're aiming for. If you bring this into your life every day, it doesn't have to take long. You can spend 5 to 10 minutes on it. What matters is that you add meaning and purpose into your life. This is the path back to feeling light and love again. So that's chapter 5. As you could tell, you can, when you lose someone that you love dearly, when you've lost a job, whatever it is, you can instantly go back to that moment with just by reading a chapter of a book, by listening to a song, by whatever it is. There's still emotion there, but today I get to know that that is a emotion in motion. It is energy in motion, and it just flows through me, and it doesn't have to be stuck in me. So thank you for listening to the chapter. And if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
Thank you so much for sharing. You've mentioned journaling being a part of your process in moving through grief and trauma, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that process for you.
Yeah, journaling at the very beginning, I was really angry at a lot of people. There was turmoil in our life. Logan's dad was in South Carolina. My parents were in my area, but we all were handling Logan's situation differently. And so I was really angry at my parents. I was angry at his friends. I was angry at his dad. I was just angry at everybody except for him. And mostly I was angry at myself. And so at the beginning, I started to just journal and just write out the anger. And one of the things I share with other people is, as I write, I just write. I don't censor it at all. Whatever comes to mind and is on the paper, I just let it go. And sometimes I was writing so big that the letters were like this big. But when I was done, I was cleansed. And what I did was I took those writings and brought them outside and I burned them and said, I release you with love now. And so it's not left in the universe to be read later. So you don't have to worry about someone reading it if you don't want them to know what you're feeling. And you can just let that go. And so the journaling is a big part of my daily practice even today. So I have a daily practice. It's meditation and journaling, and I choose oracle cards, and I'm connecting to Logan and the divine, and I'm guided by that daily practice today. And I think the daily practice is really one of the main things that I started with. So.
Do you still Thank you, by the way. That was beautiful. And apologies, I just found out about this recently, so I do not have your book yet. But I plan to get it, and I get it for a friend of mine who I had also gotten set up for tickets, but her son died. He just turned 21 in a single car rollover accident, and it's been 7 years. But I don't think she was still even ready to come on the to see be part of this. But I was interested in the burning the journal part, which I think, well, that's a good idea. Are you still doing that part of your ritual, or no?
You kept cutting out a bit, Melissa. So the burning, sorry. I heard the burning, but
I said, do you still? I think I'm having trouble with my computer. Are you still burning your journaling now, or was that just in the beginning?
When I have something on my mind or on my heart, really, it's really on my heart. When I'm feeling out of alignment, tense, restricted, then I start journaling. And if I feel I want to burn it, I can. I don't burn all my journals. I just journal every day, and I just write whatever comes to me first thing in the morning. It's automatic writing. And so, no, I don't burn most of mine, but when I need to release something that I don't feel is from my love and compassion of my heart, when I need to release something, that's when I burn it.
Got it. Interesting. I might try that. I apologize. I might.
Great.
That I'm not doing my spotty internet, so I apologize.
No problem. It's good. I'm glad that you're here. It's great. One of the other things that I want to just end this with is that the first thing I tell people, it's on my website, it's everywhere that I have. It's called the grief prescription. And if someone's going through any kind of trauma at any point in your life or any stress, there's the 3 B's. It's be in the moment, consciously breathe, and believe whatever you're going through is yet an experience in your life, and it's not always going to be what you're feeling right then and there. And so the consciously breathing is a big part of my practice as well. And it's becoming grounded. It keeps you in the moment. If you look too far back, you become depressed because you're wanting something to be different than what it is. And if you're looking too much into the future, you're basing your future off from the anxiety and the fear that you're sitting in today, and you're believing that your future is going to be like that. So when you're in the moment, you're able to take it one step at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, and know that you can move through this and it's actually moving through the emotions versus avoiding them, masking them, pretending they're not there, shoving them down, overeating, over exercising, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. It's really facing the emotions. What keeps us stuck is the fear of being stuck in those emotions, and that's actually what's keeping us stuck in wherever we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my husband died by suicide. It was 9 years this past June. And my younger daughter, thank you. We had been going back and forth, splitting up and getting back because he was really dealing with a lot of mental illness, and over the years, and just kept decompensating. Mm-hmm. So it was like watching a slow suicide and knowing at some point that was likely what was going to be the end result. And my younger daughter, Sophie, found him at his mother's house. We live out in Southern California. And he had taken his life. He was a huge pacifist, but he took his life with a gunshot wound, which was completely counter to who he was. Yeah. And that was, so my younger daughter, Sophie's 25, and her sister Hannah's 26. And it's interesting, I think you're naming a number of things that you can use to try to mitigate, feeling stuck, or what the consequences of all of that has led up to. But overworking is another one, or making sure to try to take care of everyone else. But We're 9 years in, and it's still, for watching my daughters, it's still like just baby steps, just, not really being stuck, but also not feeling
Like
like
yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one side or the other all the time. It's forever ago, and it just happened. So very interesting.
Right. I have a group called From Grief to Belief Stepping Stones. It's a Facebook group, and I do lives in there every week, and I do a little grief brief every week. And today I did a grief brief on carrying people and carrying emotions, and how when we're carry the emotions forward, we're carrying other people, we're not taking their pain away. What we're doing is we're adding more pain in the universe. We're adding to it, we're not taking it away. And so caring is one of the things you mentioned, and that was the grief brief today. So you can, if you're interested, or your daughters are, you could join that. And
sorry, what was the name of the group?
It's called From Grief to Belief From Grief to Belief Stepping Stones.
Okay, and I don't want to be offensive with this question, but I'm not Christian based, so is it okay?
It is not Christian based. I am spiritual, and I am not religious. That may sound odd to some people. I absolutely believe in energy, and we are all energy. Did I say this earlier? I don't know, but we are all energy. And while our bodies are no longer here, or our loved ones' bodies are no longer here, their energy is all around us. And so what I help people do is to create a new relationship with the energy that's left. Because as I mentioned, Logan, I channeled this from Logan. There are pieces in this that I realized after the fact that he helped me write. It's in the whole process, I know I was being guided. So I am extremely connected energetically. And so I have oracle cards that I read. So on Mondays, the live is channeled inspiration, a weekly guidance through the oracle cards, and then I pull a postcard from spirit and read that. And on Wednesdays is the grief brief in the evenings, and on Fridays is a guided meditation.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, thank you. I'll look into that. Both my daughters, they're very, very different. I gave birth to both of them, so I know they're mine, but they're from two different sides of the genetic setup, but they both are into oracle cards, and one's my yoga hippie artsy, and the other one's my altar witch oracle. They've been trying to find their path and their things, but I appreciate that. And I loved when you were saying when he transitioned, because I just feel like you're on kind of a different plane of existence, and it doesn't, that's why I was questioning. I didn't want to sign up for something that I knew was probably not the space that would work for me. So I appreciate that.
It's not in alignment with you, but I feel like this would be in alignment with you.
Yeah, Melissa. I do too. Oh yeah, so I'm so glad I was able to make it today. And maybe I'm going to get your book for myself and for my friend Kristen, and give it to her. And I'm going to look into the other two you referenced. Those sound wonderful too.
Yeah, there are 30 stories in each book. The other two is women who rise and women who empower. So there's 30 short stories in both of them. So yeah, there's different stories. They're inspiration.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. Is that going to be like a continuum where you continue to do books with different stories, or that was just the two?
There's another book that's coming out this year called Phases of Mental Illness. That's a collaborative book. There's 30. I have a chapter on that. Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Souls. I have a chapter in one of his upcoming books coming out. And I will be writing another full book, and that will be more on connection, healing, how you connect energetically, how you stay connected, and how you can live a life of purpose. And Toadstool is actually has autographs. They have signed copies of the book, so you could order the book through to. No, of women of Shattered Together. They have the signed copies.
Okay. I found them because obviously I'm down in Southern California, and we try to use small businesses and things like that. And I'm trying to remember how I got introduced to Toadstool. I knew about indie books and something else. And oh, I know how. It's another author, and she writes I can't remember her last name, but she writes books about animals and things. And there was a new release coming out about hummingbirds, and two of my former coworkers were really into hummingbirds, so they were going to have signed copies, and I think that's how I got introduced to Toadstool, just online. And so I ordered signed copies as gifts for them, and now I'm on their list, and then we're trying to order from them instead of Jeff Bezos. So we're doing our best to try to do that. So I just ordered some recent books for my daughter and her witchcraft stuff and different things. And I was ordering books, and then I scrolled down and I saw, which I never do. So there's that. And I scrolled down and saw the online things, and I was like, oh, what's that? And so I clicked on the 3 that were at the bottom of the email like 2 or 3 days ago. And then I saw yours, and when I didn't know it was about, when I saw Shattered Together, I clicked on it, and I was like, I need to be there. So
awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for actually doing this. And if you don't mind, if I ask you, were you an author before you lost Logan?
No. Writing was not, as I mentioned, I didn't go to college until I was in my 40s. And writing was not one of my, what I felt was one of my
Gifts?
Gifts, skills, one of my skills. Yeah.
I keep saying before Dennis died, we were still obviously very intertwined, and he was slowly getting sicker and sicker, and he lost his we had gone to medical school together, and he had lost his surgery practice. And of course I stopped practicing because we were building his practice and raising kids and things. And I have some of his journals. I haven't read a lot of them, but I got from his mom, or just like notepads. You could see his handwriting over the years as he got more sick, decompensating more and more. And we used to say we were going to write a book where, I'd write a chapter from my point of view, and he'd write a chapter from his point of view. And we never were able to do that. And then after he died, I have on my desktop about 3 whole pages of the book I said I was going to write about, his slow descent and who he was, and not that would be what defined him. But I have a title, Treading Quicksand, because you're not you tread water to stay alive, but if you move in quicksand, you go down faster. And
well, that's interesting. I use the analogy of moving through grief is like being in quicksand, then in muddy water, swamps, and then pond water, and then lake, and then ultimately being able to feel as if you can float on top of an ocean.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So in one of these days, maybe I'll write it. I think, there've been so many. I don't know that people are, need another doctor who went down in mental illness, but so.
Or maybe you write how it can change someone's life. And, there's 7.2 billion people in this world. There's plenty of people who need help.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe that's an idea. So anyways, thank you so much. And and I'm not sure who's representing Toadstool because I don't know anyone there personally, but thank you guys, or thank whomever sets this up, because I think it was a beautiful experience. So thank you very much for sharing today.
Welcome. Thank you, Kathleen, so much. That was beautiful. And Melissa will have those. We have copies of Kathleen's book available in the store.
I'll go online. I'll go online.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you. I look
Thank you,
forward to
Grace, for doing this.
Thank
Okay.
you. Have a
Take
good evening,
care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.